On this edition of Gameball College Kickoff, we're going to recap a crazy weekend of college football that happened in Week 13, playoff hopes dash, and a strong case made by some others. We'll talk about those. In our second segment, which one-loss team will finally make the college football playoff, and that's if there are not two teams from the same conference. We'll talk about Oklahoma, Baylor, or Utah, who all three of those teams made strong cases over the weekend with big wins. And also in our third segment, we're not going to bring you 4, but we're going to bring you 5 of the top matchups to look out for in our one and only 5 cast, as it is on the brink of championship weekend. And what a better way to talk about those matchups, but right here on Gameball College Kickoff, and it begins now. What's happening, everyone? Welcome to Gameball College Kickoff, where the football season never ends. It's your boy Marcus Young, Genius Jenkins.
It's your Michael Wright.
And shout out always to our brother Luke Hartnett, who couldn't be here with us, but of course, like we always do, we hold each other down. We hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving break as well. So shout out to everybody that stays with us since day one, or if you're new watching today, welcome to the podcast. We're going to kick things off by the recap of Week 13, Michael. What a crazy weekend this was. Upsets indeed, a lot of playoff hopes dashed, some making strong cases. We're going to get to it, starting with Virginia Tech and Virginia. Virginia pulled away in this one late. They would score a touchdown, and then also they would kick a field goal to stretch that lead. 39-30 over the Hokies would be the score in that matchup. Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State clicking on all cylinders. Justin Fields, the quarterback, he would throw for 4 touchdowns. Running back J.K. Dobbins would add 4 touchdowns on the ground as well. They pretty much had their way in this game, Mike.
Yes, they did.
Ohio State definitely in dominating fashion over Harbaugh and company. 56.
8 to 9 years in a row. Damn.
Sad times. 56-27 would be that score. Alabama and Auburn, we'll talk about this one a little bit more. The Iron Bowl. 48-45, a huge win over the Crimson Tide. We'll talk about that one here momentarily, as well as Wisconsin in dominating fashion over the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Unfortunately, the Minnesota Miracle came to an end at the hands of the Badgers, 38-17. But real quick, we're going to back it up. We're going to talk about the Iron Bowl. Alabama had their chances. They were up 45-40 in the fourth quarter. Auburn will find a way to pull away late, a touchdown, and then also a completed 2-point conversion as well. There was still plenty of time, though, left in the game when that even happened. There was still a little over 8 minutes, but for some reason, Alabama was just not able to get it going. Mike, I got to ask you, Mac Jones actually had a good game. He threw for 4 touchdowns. Unfortunately, he would have 2 interceptions. Bo Nix kind of held the freshman standards. He would have 1 touchdown. He threw, I believe, for 175 yards. How was Auburn able to pull this game off late?
Well, even though it was a high-scoring game, but give credit to the defense. They had 2 pick sixes for the touchdown, and they forced a missed field goal. And Auburn offense was able to go blow to blow with Alabama's offense. And Bo Nix did enough to win the game. The running game was efficient, effective, and it wore down Alabama at the end. Auburn was the better team. They came with a better mindset, and they got tired of hearing Alabama this, Alabama that. They came, they show out, and they got the job done, winning the Iron Bowl and ended Alabama's playoff dreams. And it was an overall good game, but I picked Auburn because Tula wasn't playing. If Tula was playing, it would have been a different story. But Auburn was a better team, and they were at home. And like I said, it was a slugfest back and forth, and Auburn was able to hold off. Alabama was able to make more plays, and Auburn was the better team over Alabama. And the college football playoff era, we're not talking about Alabama. We're talking about other teams. And Nick Saban, I think, will come back stronger next year.
Absolutely.
And plus, recruiting-wise, this wasn't his best recruit on defense. And offensively, if Tua leaves, who's going to be the quarterback? So they got to get a lot better defensively and hit more recruit in the defensive department. So that was their bread and butter because they've always been a dominant defensive team. So they got to get back at that and get some players come back healthy and stay healthy offensively. It's going to be there, but it's just a quarterback position.
Now, one question, Mike, I do got to ask you. Moving forward, do you think that this is a question that he's going to have to hear even going through the summer? Is a whole Tua injury, what happened to Mississippi State because they fell short in the Iron Bowl?
He's definitely already hearing it, and he's definitely asking questions about that injury. I wouldn't have played Tua. I would have saved him for this particular game because this game could have easily kept you alive in the playoff hopes. So there's going to be a lot of questions going into offseason, and Alabama going to play in the bowl game now.
All right. Once again, unfortunately, the Crimson Tide's playoff hopes would come to an end. A great game overall, but unfortunately, they would lose to Auburn 48-45. Moving on to Wisconsin and Minnesota. Minnesota got off to, you would say, a decent start, Mike. They led through the first quarter, going into the second quarter, 7-0. It was still tight, but then all of a sudden, here comes Wisconsin. They would pull a 10-0 run going into halftime, and it just seems like the run went from there. They outscored Minnesota 28-11 rather, going into the second half. Mike, I got to ask you, after that first quarter, how was Wisconsin just able to turn it on and never look back?
Well, they had to rely on the passing game, and the passing game came alive, and the defense was able to first force turnovers to get the job done in a crazy snowy conditions. It was just awful, but it didn't stop Wisconsin. They did get the running game going, but the passing game was the main factor that carried this team to win. Normally, it'll be the running game, but the passing game had to step up, and the quarterback did with that. And defensively, they was able to make plays and get key turnovers to win this game. So now they headed to the Big Ten championship against Ohio State. And Minnesota, unfortunately, this is a blow for them. But going forward, you have something to look forward to, and you getting all your players back, offense and defensively. So if you can somehow get that mojo going, carry it to next season, Minnesota might be in the conference championship game. So I say going to 2020, they're 2 games away from this season, and 2020 comes up. If they can keep up this pace, Minnesota could be right there with the rest of them.
All right. Once again, unfortunately, Minnesota, not where they wanted to go, but definitely the Golden Gophers, things are definitely looking up for them moving forward into the future. That's going to do it for this first segment. Coming up in our second segment, which one-loss team will make the college football playoff? And that's, once again, if there's not 2 teams from the same conference that will be included into the playoffs. We'll talk about that. Stick around. We're just getting started right here on Gameball College Kickoff, and we'll be back in a moment. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Gameball College Kickoff. Now, Mike, I got to ask you, which team, in your opinion, which one-loss team will finally get into the college football playoff between Utah, Oklahoma, or Baylor? And that's if they're not two teams from the same conference.
I'm going to go with Utah on this one because Utah kind of got off a slow start against Colorado, but they turned it up the notch and they was able to ram a lot of points in the blowout fashion. And that tight end was doing some work against Colorado, and they was able to get it done. And I feel like if they get the win and if Georgia loses, Utah is in. If two teams from the same conference don't get in. So you got LSU playing Georgia. That's the only game that most of the one-loss teams is looking forward to, because if LSU loses, they're still in it because they beat Alabama and all that other stuff. So as of right now, I like Utah's chances more than Oklahoma and Baylor, because Baylor had their chances, they lost. Oklahoma had their chance, they lost on the road against Kansas State earlier part of the season. So Utah, they hung in there and they're making a name for themselves. And I like the way they play offensively, smash mouth football, take care of the ball, don't beat themselves. And Huntley is getting better and better in the passing game. And defense, their front seven is ferocious.
Yes, it is.
So I like Utah's chances better than Oklahoma and Baylor. That's if two teams from the same conference in the SEC does not get in the college football playoff.
I'm right with you on that one. Oklahoma, though, give them a lot of credit. They made a huge win. They made a huge statement after beating, which could have, and we talked about this last week, that could have been a potential trap game for them, and ended up winning big over Oklahoma State. Baylor, I mean, they did what they were supposed to do. We both knew that they were going to do everything they can to make one last statement. We obviously didn't see that game against KU being as dominating of a fashion as we thought it was, but I'm right there with you, Utah. Impressive season going through the Pac-12. And the Pac-12, obviously, one of the power conferences, and this team definitely came out of nowhere. And obviously, they definitely showed that they weren't a fluke. And big win after big win, obviously another one over the weekend. I'm kind of torn between Oklahoma and Baylor. I would say I would not be surprised if Baylor gets snubbed, though. Just being 100% honest. Well, that's going to do it for this second segment. Coming up, we're going to give you not only 4, but 5 games to look out for in our 1 in a million 5-cast. Not a 4-cast, ladies and gentlemen, a 5-cast. We're coming up on championship weekend. Stick around. We'll talk about the top 5 matchups right after this. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Gameball College Kickoff. Now it is time to talk about the top 5 matchups in our 5-cast edition of the forecast, starting with Utah and Oregon for the Pac-12 championship. Mike, tell us about this matchup.
It's going to be a dogfight, but Utah has a better advantage than Oregon, because Oregon started off the season with a loss against Auburn. Then they got off to the hot start. Then they ran into Arizona State and lost. So which Oregon team are you going to get? The spoiler alert or the team that laid flat against Arizona State? If they want to end Utah's dreams to get in the playoff, offense, they have to score quickly. And they have to do it fashionably, run the ball, attack, and be aggressive against this Utah front seven that's one of the best in the country. And defensively, how you stop Utah's running game And also pass the game with Huntley, he's getting better and better, and with the accuracy, and that's what I like about him. So if Oregon can do that, they can win. Now for Utah, don't let the track game fool you. Do not get caught at the moment. Just go out there, get the job done, be physical, be disciplined, and do not beat yourself. You did that all season long, except for one game that was against USC that about cost you to get into the Pac-12 championship, but they took care of business and handled what they need to handle. Defense, just be aggressive, get after Oregon's offense, just come up with different blitzes and schemes and just attack into the middle. That's where the weakness is part of Oregon's. Oregon has one of the best offensive line in the country, but if I'm the defense, I am flying, being aggressive and attacking and establish and make a statement early. And offensively, just play smash mouth, run the ball down their throat, get the tight end going to pass the game like you did against Colorado, get the receivers going to pass the game, be consistent, and win the time of possession battle. If you can win the time of possession battle, Utah wins the game.
All right, Pac-12 championship, Utah trying to make one last case of getting into the 14 playoff. We're going to move from the Pac-12. We're going to go to the Big 12 where Baylor and Oklahoma hook up for the conference championship. What do you like about this matchup? Yes, sir.
Round 2, fight. Baylor let one slip away against Oklahoma. That really cost them to be knocked out the top 4 in the college football playoff. So how does Baylor avenge Oklahoma? You have to look at film, which are more likely they probably will, and see what mistakes you made. If I'm the coach, I am playing that tape over and over again till it starts getting on your last nerve or till you puke, because you let a 25-point lead slip away.
Right.
You had the game in your grasp and you just let Oklahoma come back and win. So if I'm Baylor, you got to be aggressive offensively, score touchdowns. Defensively, you have to stop Oklahoma's offense. You have to be aggressive. You have to keep everything in front of you and play real physical against receivers. Once you jam them up and not let anything pass you, Oklahoma's receivers does not like that. So if Baylor can do that, they can win this game. Now for Oklahoma, defensively, they stepped up last few games, but can you step up again? And offensively, let Jalen Hurts make plays, get the ball to CeeDee Lamb, and get the running game going. They got a lot better running the ball efficiently. If you can run the ball efficiently against Baylor, get first downs, chew up the clock, Oklahoma can win this game.
All right, two teams with something to lose. It would be these two, Utah and Baylor, as they're both still trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. So definitely a big-time matchup in the Big 12 for the conference championship. We're going to move from the Big 12, and we're going to roll down to the SEC, Georgia versus LSU. Mike, what do you like about this one?
It's going to be a dogfight. It's going to come down to a good defense versus an offense. How will Georgia be able to solve the riddle of LSU's offense? Because this season, nobody has solved anything to stop them. I mean, they just putting up numbers like it ain't nothing. Joe Burrow, the Heisman candidate, he's just been balling this season. He's more likely the first pick overall in next year's draft. Mock draft coming up on Gameball and so don't go anywhere about that. And Georgia, offensively, you have to attack the weakness of LSU. They've been vulnerable on defense, but if you can find that vulnerability and attack it and be aggressive and score touchdowns, you cannot settle for field goals. You have to be disciplined. Don't beat yourselves. And Jake Fromm is going to have to win this game. And defensively, you cannot let big plays at LSU. Now, for LSU defense, they get some of their starters back healthy and all that stuff. And offense, just keep doing LSU offense. If they can do that, they're going to the college football playoff as SEC champions.
Well, another team that has to make a straight case, and hopefully for the Georgia Bulldogs, don't mean to sound cheesy, but like a good QB, you hope Jake Fromm is there for the Georgia Bulldogs. This is going to be a good matchup, though. LSU and Georgia going down in the SEC. We're going to go from there. We're going to go to the ACC where Clemson awaits Virginia. Mike, what do you like about this matchup?
Well, if Virginia wants to get the win, they have to run the ball, get the running game going, and set up for the play-action pass. And the passing game is going to have to carry against Clemson because Clemson overall is very good defensively. If you can do that, then you have a chance. Now, defense, you have to be able to slow down Clemson's running game and force Trevor Lawrence to beat you in the passing game. If you can do that, they can win. Clemson has been well balanced as of lately. They just been blowing people out of the water, offense, defense, and special teams. Just keep doing what you're doing, and you're punching your ticket to the college football playoff anyways as reigning defending champions.
All right. And normally we'd be done, but like we said before, we got one more game to talk about, and that is in the Big Ten where Ohio State takes on Wisconsin. Both of these teams winning in dominating fashion over the weekend, now facing each other head-to-head for the Big Ten championship. Mike, what do you like about this matchup?
Wisconsin offensive line has got their hands full, especially dealing with Chase Young. He might not have impact stat-wise against Michigan, but his presence there helped them carry the Ohio State defense to win that game. They're going to have to double team, triple team him, run away from that side, and just help him out, chip him, whatever you can do, because Chase Young is the real deal, and you have to score touchdowns against Ohio State's defense. Now, offense now for Wisconsin's defense, you're going to have to make Ohio State one-dimensional offense beat you in the passing game. Slow down the running game and find a way to slow down Justin Fields. If you can do that, you get the win. Ohio State, they start off a little slow start against Michigan. Once they got going, J.K. Dobbins, that running game was unstoppable. And the passing game came along. So if they could continue to do that, Ohio State will win in dominant fashion.
All right, Wisconsin, who played spoiler last week, looking to do it one more time against the Ohio State Buckeyes. And that is going to take us to the predictions part of the episode. Utah versus Oregon, the first matchup to talk about. Who you got?
Luke has upset alert Oregon over Utah. I'm taking the Utes of Utah to win against Oregon. I just don't trust Oregon offense to make more plays. They struggled the last few weeks, and I feel like Utah's defense would expose that. So I'm going to say Utah gets it done as Pac-12 champs. I'm going to say 31-14 Utah gets it done.
I am actually I was thinking about this matchup as well. I like Oregon in this matchup for this reason. They have nothing to lose. Utah does. They've never been in this predicament before. They do have to make one last case. I think it's going to be close, but I think Oregon will find a way to pull it off in the fourth. I'm going to say a score of 21. I'll say 21-27 will be my score. I think Oregon pulls off the upset in this one. Big 12 championship, Baylor and Utah. Both these teams trying to make a case. Who makes the stronger one?
Baylor, Oklahoma.
Excuse me.
Luke has Oklahoma winning. I have Baylor winning a rematch. They let that 25-point lead, and I just feel like Baylor were able to find a way to bounce back and win. And I feel like this time they'll finish it. So I'm going to say a close one. Baylor pulls off at the end with a late field goal. I'm going to say 41-38 Baylor.
I'm going, man, this is tough. Because that offense with Baylor ain't nothing to play with. That offense is elite, and so is that defense. I like Jalen Hurts in this matchup because we've seen this before. When it's a big game on the line, Jalen Hurts was that guy that led Oklahoma back in that first match between them. I think he'll find a way to do it again. It's going to be a high-scoring game. There's no question about that. Give me 35-28 as my score. I like the Sooners over Baylor and making their case and going to the 14 playoff. SEC championship, Georgia and LSU. Mike, who you got?
I got LSU, so does Luke. LSU's talented offensively. I don't see Georgia doing anything to slow it down. So I'm going to say LSU moves on, gets it done as SEC champions. I'm going to say 41-27.
41 points. I agree with both of you guys. I like LSU in this matchup as well. And for that same reason, I just think they're better offensively. Give me a score. I'm going to say, give me 35. I'll say 35 to 27. Kind of similar score to the Big 12 championship, but I like the Tigers as well. ACC, Virginia and Clemson. Who you got?
Clemson, nothing else. Dominate fashion. They'll go back 14 playoffs. And Luke has the same thing, Clemson.
I agree with this one as well. I think this could be a potential blowout in this one as well. I like Clemson. They're just better on both sides of the football. If I had to pick a score, I'll say 35. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 35-14, honestly, myself. I like Clemson. And for the final matchup, the Big Ten, the Ohio State, Wisconsin, who you got?
Ohio State defense, offense, Justin Fields, J.K. Dobbins, and the crew. Too much for Wisconsin to handle. Speed. That's all I got to say. Ohio State wins dominated fashion. And Luke picks Ohio State to win.
I agree as well. I think Ohio State's just going to wear down that defense in the first half. I don't really see them recovering after that. Like you said, too much Justin Fields, too much J.K. Dobbins. It's going to be a high-scoring matchup. Honestly, I like Ohio State. I'm not thinking they're going to combine for 8 touchdowns like they did against Michigan on Saturday. But I will definitely say they'll put up a lot of points. I'll say 42-28 on this one. I like the Buckeyes. And that's going to do it for this edition of Gameball Calls Kickoff. Social media, you can find me on Facebook, Marcus Jovel ENT Jenkins, on Snapchat and Instagram at Jovel ENT, as well as Twitter if I didn't say that already.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gmail, YouTube, all on my right side. It'll be on your left side. Follow the social media platform. Also, don't forget to get your gear on our clothing line at gameballshop.ecwid.com. That's gameballshop.ecwid.com. And our official website has launched. It's gck-gnfle.com. That's gck-gnfle.com. Don't forget to get on that website, share it, everyone, and make sure you check it out. And we can't forget our other brother Luke, who couldn't be here. Facebook, Twitter as Luke Harnett, and Facebook, Instagram as Luke Harnett, and Twitter as Luke Harnett 2.
I'm Marcus Young Genius Jenkins.
It's your boy, Mike O'Reilly.
And don't forget to stick around for Gameball Info End Zone for getting your professional football fix. Stick around. We'll see you in a moment.